but only because it was blocked by his top lawyers, Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of the dissident Republicans on the panel.
Donald Trump had access to more detailed and specific information showing that the election was not actually stolen than almost any other American. And he was told this over and over again.
The Trump family, meanwhile, is mourning following the death of Ivana Trump, the former president's ex-wife. She died of an apparent heart attack in New York at the age of 73. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. On Wall Street this week, investors will be turning their attention to corporate quarterly figures as earnings season ramps up. Traders will want to see how red-hot inflation and raising interest rates have impacted companies' bottom lines. From FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo with the preview.
Last week's Consumer Price Index report showed that inflation in the US is up at 41-year highs. That news has fueled speculation that the Federal Reserve may move even more aggressively in a bid to ease price pressures. The Fed convene at the end of the month, but inflation fears will continue to dominate sentiment on Wall Street in the coming trading week. Earnings season is also kicking into gear, and traders will be eager to see how those price pressures are influencing company bottom lines.
The Hong Kong government accused the US of cheap bullying behaviour last week after a congressional report said more sanctions may be imposed on city officials to protect public freedoms. From FSN's bureau in Hong Kong, Richard Kimber covered that story.
The Hong Kong government says the US is spreading misinformation about the city and attempting to intimidate its top prosecutors. A report from the United States Congressional Executive Commission on China said there had been an erosion of rule of law and human rights in Hong Kong, and that the international community might need to issue further sanctions against Hong Kong prosecutors in response to a growing number of political prisoners in the city. The Hong Kong government is dismissing that, and so too is the city's top legal association. It says all prosecutions are legally justified and based on evidence.
Stories will report in the coming week a red heatwave alert that weather forecasters say could cost lives in the UK. We'll keep covering the race to succeed Boris Johnson as UK Prime Minister, and the European Central Bank is poised to raise interest rates. Those stories here and on Twitter at Feature Story, and that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
It seems like we're constantly hearing different fitness advice. Exercise 2 to 3 times a week for at least 30 minutes a day. And don't forget cardio. But don't exercise too much or you'll get hurt. So, how much exercise should you be getting? Well, actually not that much, since the human body is only built to withstand walking a short distance before lying or sitting down again. In fact, a group of biologists from Stanford found that walking more than 5 feet at a time can cause joint pain, fatigue, and even extreme hunger. The study concluded that the maximum effort the human body can safely endure is reaching for an item high on a shelf. Our bodies simply aren't built to stand up and move around. So maybe those high-intensity spin classes and daily jogs aren't such a good idea. Instead of walking up the stairs every day, try taking the elevator whenever possible. You can even use a fitness tracker to let you know when you've been exerting too much energy. Your body will appreciate it. For The Onion, I'm Jill Hooper.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Who let this guy drive tonight?
Nobody.
Nobody let me drive? Well, thanks, nobody. It's awfully kind of you. Consider it.
Nobody cares.
Playing the part of Ian Freeman tonight will be the Reverend Captain Kickass.
Nobody deserves to tell you whether you have a job or not.
Yes, he does. He does. The telephone number, if you want to participate in tonight's program, 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. Phone lines are open. In the studio tonight, it is myself, the Lord Dr. Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me,
the nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Beakless Mountaineer.
And
you've got the short name.
I know, right?
Yeah, but in ways it's more complex.
There is that.
You know, if you ponder Peakless Mountaineer for a while, you're like, wait a minute.
I mean, the first part of that is a word that literally no one uses.
Yes, Peakless.
Yeah, whereas the elements of your name are all familiar.
Right. And mine are more of like a pastiche. I'm making fun of people with many titles, essentially. I also think it's comical, right? So, I do parody songs. I fancy myself a comedian. I've positioned myself as such on the internet and in other places. And so people are like, oh, you're a funny guy. So, yeah.
I'm still waiting for that rendition of I Am Nobody. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. I don't know if Ozzy Osbourne's in my vocal range. I've covered, I think I've sung one Ozzy song, but poorly. Because, I have a much lower register. I've only got like maybe 3 octaves of range, maybe. I like to stick within 2 octaves, but there's singers out in the world that are like, I have 8 octaves. And I'm like, wow, I don't know what you did to...
And did you have to use all of them in this song?
Yeah. Generally speaking. So anyway,
you got them, use them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talent is talent, right? So don't hold back. If you have talent, go ahead and use it.
I can just see how that would be frustrating when you're trying to parody someone.
Yeah, it makes it difficult. Certain songs are easier than others, and other songs I'll go out and I'll get like guest vocalists, like the one I did. It's a parody of Temple of the Dog's Hunger Strike. Temple of the Dog, for those of you who don't know, was a combination of 2 Seattle grunge bands, Soundgarden and Pearl Jam. Several members of each band got together and did this one-off disc as we'll call it a super group, I guess, called Temple of the Dog. They released a song called Hunger Strike, which everybody just hears. The chorus is, I'm going hungry, right? Something like that. I changed that into I'm doing laundry. And it's a vocal duet between Chris Cornell and Eddie Vedder. Cornell being the guy with the like 8 octave range. I don't know how many octaves he actually had, but Eddie Vedder was the more like me. He's more of the 2, maybe 3 octave range. So I did the Eddie Vedder parts, and then my friend Steve out in Seattle did the Chris Cornell parts.
But did you pretend that My Baby's in Love with You?
No, I did not.
Because as you well know, My Baby's in Love with Eddie Vedder.
Yes, thank you, Weirdo. I do want to say the irony of doing, parodying the Temple of the Dog Hunger Strike into I'm Doing Laundry, right? Which is just...
I'm doing laundry.
Yeah. You get it. You can find that over at reverendcaptainkickass.com. There's a link to my parody music and some other stuff I do.
Okay, another one that needs to be done is something that Rage Against the Machine did.
Cooperate with the machine.
Indicate that they are now raging on behalf of the machine.
Indeed. So
I had a buddy telling me about this amazing punk show with all these great bands and like Black Flag, and I'm like,
yeah, they're all wearing masks. They're all vaccinated. Requiring people to be vaccinated at their shows and things of that nature.
All those punk bands telling me to listen to the government.
One thing that COVID did do, and I'll get back to the irony because I didn't finish my statement.
When did leftists get rid of all their question authority stickers? They used to have those.
Yeah,
they did.
Apparently COVID, right? That is the time that I trace.
It's been happening for more years than that.
Okay.
Well, I think a major part of the turning point was about 2016. So, that was the point where you had this sort of newcomer to the political field, more or less, who they hated because he's an obnoxious prick. And at that point, they're like, prick. Maybe the establishment isn't so bad because it's not this guy. For all its flaws, it kept us from having this guy in power.
See, the thing is, my response to that has been the opposite. If Trump runs again, I may vote for him just because I was so horrified.
Nobody loves Trump?
God, no. God, no. But
nobody loves voting?
Nobody hates the behavior he has seen out of the leftists for the last 8 years. Nobody is disgusted. Just horrified.
I agree with your disgust and horrification.
I think another major turning point was with Obama. So, I mean, with Obama, you had like an unquestionable president, because if you question him, obviously the only reason you could possibly do that is on account of his race. Therefore,
like
you
Walter
had,
Williams.
Yeah, so you had his whole 2 terms where you could not question the wars, you could not question the government, you could not question authority if you cared about anti-racism. So I mean, they atrophied that ability.
All right, real quick before I lose the thought, I mentioned that there was an irony in doing this parody song that I did of Temple of the Dog, The Hunger Strike, into I'm Doing Laundry. And it was that I covered the Eddie Vedder parts. My friend Steve out in Seattle covered the Chris Cornell parts. Steve actually fronts a Pearl Jam tribute band called Washed in Black. He's a fantastic vocalist, and I was able to employ him for this one parody song. So he actually goes out on a regular basis singing Eddie Vedder. So, yeah, you do the math. I was told there
Is
would
he
be
better at it?
He is much better than I am. Yes, much more better. He does a better job.
Better.
He does a better job than I do. But there was one time,
and does the Vedder keep him in the cheddar?
I don't know. There was one time when I went to go see his Pearl Jam band play live, and before they went on, I bought him a shot of Jameson or whatever, and he said, "Hey, if the band is down, do you want to get up and sing the parody?" And like, I was already intoxicated myself, and my gut reaction was like, hell yeah. But then, like, my better judgment kicked in, and I'm like, that would probably
be
a
have that
bad
when
idea.
you're drunk?
I was going to say.
This one time, right?
See, this took a sudden turn on me. Like, what I thought is, well, I was drinking a little at the time, so I was like, hell yeah.
It went the other way. I'm a little less likely to hit the right notes after imbibing, Jameson specifically.
Well, it is a neurosuppressant, and that is some detailed neurological work.
Alcohol doesn't make me smarter. Most of the stories that start with "I was drinking a little" end up with me naked on the bar.
So you're saying that's not the smart thing to do? Man, I got to change my life plan.
Not if you look like me. If you're a pretty 23-year-old girl, you can make a fortune.
Though. You're a pretty 23-year-old girl? You got a gray beard. I mean, that's sort of weird.
Are you questioning my sexual? Are
you assuming his gender?
I'm merely asking a question.
/ age. I identify as a pretty 23-year-old. Thanks.
Yeah. And if you don't send me money on OnlyFans, you're transphobic.
You've got an OnlyFans?
No, but I'll get one if somebody's going to send me money.
It occurs
as soon as I get anyone to buy this argument, I will.
It occurs to me that we should probably begin the program now that the first segment is almost over.
Have we not started?
We have, yes.
I thought we were doing it.
Well, we are.
Good God, what have we been doing all this time?
We've been, carrying on. Yes, it occurs to me.
Wayward son.
It occurs to me that this is the most bearded edition of the Saturday Night Free Talk Live
ever.
Coming up, what is the Great Red Migration? More Free Talk Lives on the way.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Don't worry about things you can't control. Isn't that what they always say? But it's about impossible to avoid worrying about what's going on these days. The government has used the war on guns, the war on drugs, and the war on terrorism to tear our Bill of Rights to shreds. But you can fight back. The 10th Amendment Center has proven it, racking up major victories. For example, when the U.S. government claimed authority in the NDAA to have the military kidnap and detain Americans without trial, the nullifiers got a law passed in California, declaring the state's refusal to ever participate in any such thing. Their latest project is offnow.org, nullifying the National Security Agency. They've already gotten model legislation introduced in California, Arizona, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas, meant to limit the power of the NSA to spy on Americans in those states. We'd be fools to wait around for the U.S. Congress or courts to roll back Big Brother. Our best chance is nullification and interposition on the state level. Go to offnow.org, print out that model legislation, and get to work nullifying the NSA. The hero Edward Snowden has risked everything to give us this chance. Let's take it. Offnow.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Yes, thank you for tuning in and listening to Free Talk Live. And joining us on this Saturday night edition, we're here for the next almost 3 hours. And we're going to be talking about all sorts of fun things, including what is the Great Red Migration? We'll get into that in a bit. Real quickly, a couple people...
Isn't that when they flee the Soviet Union?
It could be a bunch of things if you let your imagination sort of take that away. It could be like somebody running away from lava. The Great Red Migration, you know. It could be people running towards a huge forest fire.
I don't think that's how that works.
No? Okay.
No.
All right. Real quick.
No, they use prisoners for that, so they don't have any choice.
There's a couple people...
Although if you wanted to describe the spread of a forest fire, it could be that.
There's a couple of people in the chat room. Somebody says, hello, Pope Nobody.
Hi.
Somebody else says, where is everyone? We're here, and you're here.
Nobody's here.
Are you still a pope? Like, do you keep that title after having given the reins to me?
Technically, I'm Pope Emeritus.
Okay,
but,
gotcha.
you know, it's like people still call my dad Dean, and he's like 95 and retired.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to point out, my church, all mine, It is now headed by Pope Hereticus I.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And as such, we have been adding new estimated profits.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
PROPHETS?
Yeah.
Let's hear some church talk. What you got?
Most notably,
Welcome
Jesus.
to Church Chat.
Groovy.
Yeah, Jesus was not on the list, and I definitely estimate him a prophet.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot that he said that is 100% in line with the Church of the Invisible Hand.
But how
well,
profitable?
I'll just assume that where he spoke, where he didn't, he was just misquoted.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Profitable are profits?
How profitable are profits?
Yeah.
We're still estimating the profits.
What's the profit margin on profits?
Well, since the purpose of a prophet is to show up and say, you are screwing up in the following ways, it seems to me...
hopefully you'll profit by it.
Indeed. Seems to me like if you start trying socialism, when a guy shows up and gives you, here's how these are the rules of reality, and you are believing that they don't exist, and here's what's going to happen.
I cannot change the laws of economics, Captain.
Exactly. And so in that case, your prophet makes you a lot of profit if you listen to him.
Let's see if we have a caller. His name is Tom. He's calling from New Hampshire. Let's see if he is a prophet. Tom, you're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Tom.
Can you hear me?
Hey, there you are.
We go.
Go ahead.
Now,
I had to hit a button.
It's about the abortion case that was a big news story. The 10-year-old
if you need an abortion, just take the vaccine.
No, she's got the abortion case where the 10-year-old rape victim who lived in Ohio.
Oh, I heard about
was
this.
Taken to Indiana to have her baby murdered there, and there's all this stuff about why couldn't she just get it done in Ohio? And the libertarians need to look at this angle of what the Ohio legislature can do to go further, and also protect as many babies as they can.
Do you believe in DNA?
Yes, but I want to bring something up here. Let's say there's a pregnant eighth grader at Winchester, at Driver Middle School in Winchester, Indiana, and her parents want to make her have an abortion. And so they're going to tell her, here's the thing, tomorrow you're not going to school, tomorrow you're going straight to the abortion clinic. In this house, you're going to do as you're told. And she doesn't have all the answers herself. She's in eighth grade, but she does know that she doesn't want her baby to be murdered. So it just so happens that day...
Wait. Are you saying that the parents took the girl to another state to have the abortion against her will?
I don't know that.
Oh.
But I'm saying here's it in the opposite direction. Let's say an eighth grader at Driver Middle School in Winchester, Indiana, doesn't want to have the abortion, and it just so happens that she's on the school volleyball team, and they happen to have a game going that evening. And so she gets on the bus, and the bus goes to Union County College Corner School, where they're going to be playing volleyball, and she gets off the bus and walks into the gym, and when she walks halfway across the gym, she just crossed that all-important line on the map that means so much to bureaucrats. She just entered the state of Ohio, and now she seeks the political asylum under Ohio's laws, and the Child Protective Services in Ohio can say, oh, well, instead of recognizing your parents' jurisdiction because you're an Indiana resident, you are in the state of Ohio, and we will grant you political asylum under Ohio laws, and these Indiana bureaucrats can rant and rave all they want.
Does Ohio law grant less authority to parents?
No,
because I think, I mean, depending on the age, if she knew what was going on, I can't imagine a doctor doing a procedure on somebody who said, no, I'm not doing this. I mean, it does happen. Doctors participate in executions, but I don't know. It seems like that would be a pretty rare deal.
This is what the libertarians can push for, is changing the Ohio laws so that Ohio asserts jurisdiction over the pregnant girl who doesn't want to have an abortion, regardless of whether she's from lives in Ohio or just happened to stumble into
I completely disagree.
Yeah, see, I'm in New Hampshire because the rest of the country is a lost cause. So trying to get me to care about anything outside of New Hampshire in a way that doesn't involve it moving it inside of New Hampshire is, not going to happen.
I'd like to offer a counter
They've
counter
got
proposal.
all kinds of screwy laws in Saudi Arabia. I care not at all, and I'm certainly not going to war with them.
Let's hear your counter.
So my counter proposal is this. How about we libertarians push for a market in courts for voluntary court systems that compete with each other to give us the service of justice? Because if we had
like arbitration.
Yeah, exactly. Like arbitration, but eliminating the state's monopoly on the use of force in court procedures. So if I decide of my own free will that I'm going to be governed by this court system instead of that court system, then I can appeal to these rules instead of those rules. Now, that might be such a thing as I believe in the court system that says that human life starts at first breath, or I believe in the court system that says a human life starts at conception. Now, the problem with that one is you're not even trying this as a murder case, which if you're going to consider that an independent human being, then this isn't a question of like, oh, well, you broke this statute. No, this is a murder case or it isn't.
It is or it isn't, but at the same time, it's something that's taking place inside somebody else's family and inside somebody else's body. So, like, I don't have jurisdiction to go peering up in your cooch to see what's going on in there and to see if there was anything not there today that was there yesterday.
Hey, thanks for the call, Tom. We appreciate it. 603-283-6160. I'm with you, Peakless. Let's have a market for justice.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with President Biden's controversial arrival in Saudi Arabia for meetings with the King and top members of the royal family, including Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He, of course, is the Saudi royal accused by US intelligence of orchestrating the murder in Istanbul 4 years ago of Saudi-American journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But after earlier vowing to treat Saudi Arabia like a pariah, President Biden now finds himself re-engaging with the kingdom. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
Human rights are a strategic interest of the United States. So is energy security. So is stopping terrorism. So is seeking peace in a place like Yemen. We are trying to do multiple things all at once.
The president headed to Saudi Arabia from the West Bank, where he met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and toured a healthcare facility. Before that, in Israel, he had a complicated conversation about Iran with caretaker Prime Minister Yair Lapid. The president wants talks on reviving the Iran nuclear deal to be given more time.
I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome.
The Israeli Prime Minister, standing alongside President Biden, disagreed.
Words will not stop them, Mr. President. The only thing that will stop Iran is knowing that if they continue to develop their nuclear program, the free world will use force.
When the president returns to Washington, domestic problems abound. Inflation hit another 40-year high, 9.1% year-on-year for June. And a new poll showed almost two-thirds of Democrats don't want to see Joe Biden running for re-election, although he chose to accentuate the positive.
You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
In the UK, the race is on to succeed Prime Minister Boris Johnson. 11 candidates were up for the challenge at the start of the week. By the end of it, only 5 were still standing, with former Chancellor Rishi Sunak, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt considered the front-runners. The House of Representatives Committee investigating last year's violent insurrection by Donald Trump's supporters on Capitol Hill heard evidence relating to a proposal President Trump was considering to seize the nation's voting machines. It never happened, but only because it was blocked by his top lawyers. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of the dissident Republicans on the panel.
Donald Trump had access to more detailed and specific information showing that the election was not actually stolen than almost any other American. And he was told this over and over again.
The Trump family, meanwhile, is mourning following the death of Ivana Trump, the former president's ex-wife. She died of an apparent heart attack in New York at the age of 73. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
I'm just making weird noises into the microphone. You know what's really funny is when nobody is not here, nobody is still here.
It's true. And nobody cares.
And nobody cares. Even though nobody is both here and nobody is like Schrodinger's human. He's both here and not here simultaneously.
That's true.
It's true, because when I'm not here, nobody is.
And when you are here, nobody is.
It's true.
Yes. 603, hang on. 603-283-6160. I just had to get the number out there. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's actually
You're like a dog scratching. Like, I had to get that out at that moment.
Yes.
I was holding in this phone number.
It's got to come out.
Better out than in, right?
I also should tell you that Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You could go there now and click on Get Started at the top of the page. When you do that, you'll find all sorts of valuable information, neatly organized to suit your needs. There's no longer any excuse to ignore this important and world-changing information. If you're already knowledgeable about cryptocurrency, you can check out news.bitcoin.com and get the latest headlines of all the news that's relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for everything crypto, like getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. Visit Bitcoin.com.
And contrary to popular belief, that knowledge becomes more valuable when the price is low because there's more potential to it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything that I'm seeing, like, if we're not at the bottom, we are getting there soon. And I mean, when it's close to the bottom-ish is when you should be putting a little in, put a little in, put a little in. Because that's when it's cheap, and that's when it's going to be, when you're going to make the best profit.
Dollar averaging is a beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah.
Dollar cost averaging is certainly, in my opinion, it's an opinion, the best strategy for investing in cryptocurrency, if that's what you are attempting to do. I am a little more than an investor, and that is I want to see it be adopted as a currency. And thankfully, I live in Keene, New Hampshire, where there's several businesses that accept not only cryptocurrency, but also things like goldbacks, alternatives to the Federal Reserve's USD, which has done nothing but lose money longer than I've been alive. I read something the other day that something like...
Let's put our money in an investment that never goes up.
Right. Something like... Something like a dollar today buys what a penny would be able to buy 50 years ago, something like that.
Actually, it's
about 100.
Last I heard, and these are old numbers. These are like 3 years old. But at that point, it had lost 94% of its buying power since they instituted the Federal Reserve.
1913.
Yep, and that was calculated just by taking the price of gold.
Right. What's funny about gold, and this one's old too, you might recognize it, back in the day,
because I'm old.
Around 1930. Well, you're not that old. You weren't born in 1913. Back in the day, a 1 ounce round of silver used to be enough to buy you like a really nice suit. If you had a formal occasion and you needed to go buy a suit, well, 1 gold coin would do that for you. And weirdly, today, 1 ounce gold coin is about enough. Like if you want to go to the Men's Warehouse, get yourself a really nice suit, you can do it for that price.
Yeah, an ounce of silver for a meal and an ounce of gold for a suit. Yep.
Yeah, not just that, but if you look back at the old Roman Empire, I ran across this in an economics book. A 1 ounce gold coin was enough to buy you a fine toga, a leather belt, and a pair of sandals, which is about what you're going to get in the modern equivalent today.
Are you proposing we have a toga party?
Toga!
No toga for Peakless?
It's in my heart.
Okay. Nobody and I.
Deep down,
nobody
I am always going toga.
Okay.
You might need to see a surgeon.
Like to get the toga out of my
cutting
my arteries.
For the very first time.
I was thinking maybe Mr. Mountaineer had not seen the movie Animal House.
Is there anyone who hasn't seen that movie?
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, don't they show that in the womb these days?
No, a lot of people just get out of there.
I'm pretty sure it's like part of the collective consciousness at this point.
It was so packed there was no standing womb. I got womb jokes.
Yeah.
Is there womb for one more?
There's womb for a first joke.
Yeah. Once you've had a cesarean, it's a womb with a view.
I can see you peering into that joke very steadily. What is the Great Red Wave? Or the Great Red, not wave, migration. What is that? Well, according to the Epoch Times, and that's EPOCH, not EPIC. It might be pronounced EPOC. I'm not sure. But apparently more companies are joining the Great Migration to red states amidst predictions of a political red wave in the upcoming midterm elections. An economic wave has been building for years with no end in sight as companies flood out of blue states and into red states. As a result of its political divisions.
They don't want to have half their earnings stolen?
Yeah, weird, right? Like, wow, why would they not want that? America appears to now be dividing itself into prosperous high-growth states and states that are suffering a chronic decline. But Democrat-run states believe their abortion policies could be a key factor in attracting companies back. I don't understand that logic of thinking. How would abortion policies draw companies back to blue states?
You want to keep your workers on the job, not minding rugrats. So if you
Definitely better for the corporation and bad for society. Now, I will say that those policies might cause a blue migration in response. I doubt it because all of the blue states are failing.
Now, the thing that I'm curious about, though, do you think that the people who do choose abortions are identical to the two people who do not?
No.
Politically, I would have to assume that political leanings would vary amongst those both pro and anti-abortion.
I mean,
well, there is a strong tendency for the pro-abortion to be on the political left and the anti-abortion to be on the political right.
Yeah. Let's go with colors. What color would the pro-abortionists be? Red or blue?
Blue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, if a bunch of socialists are getting abortions, I mean, from my point of view, I would rather have them abort their kids and have their kids, grow up and redistribute my property.
I'll tell you why you're wrong, though. I mean, given
well, my parents were straight up liberal, so things do depend, although I was adopted.
And even then, I mean, given the value that you stated there, so the fact that abortions are readily available all the time leads to a much higher promiscuity among socialists. So within that higher rate of promiscuity,
I've always been in favor of promiscuity.
Well, a lot of unprotected sex, a lot of sex when you maybe thought it was not the best idea anyway, but let's go ahead.
Is the same
Worst
true?
comes to worst, I can always get an abortion later.
Is the same true with contraception?
I've never had that thought before having
the
sex.
Availability of contraception, you can get it anywhere at any time. Does that also ring true for what you're saying about abortion? Because it's readily available, it leads to more promiscuity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the wide availability of reliable contraception led to an I mean, it basically was the foundation of the
sexual
60s
revolution.
Sexual revolution. Yeah. I mean, it was the availability of
I thought that was
because
the market
all of a
response.
sudden you're not a slave to your uterus. You can actually make a decision. It makes sense to have a child, or it does not make sense to have a child, and sometimes it doesn't.
Maybe I'm thinking that that's just when the innovation spiked, was around the sexual revolution. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is next.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to MyMagicMud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. MyMagicMud.com, FTL20.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's edition of Beard Talk Live. I mean, Free Talk Live. We are a live call-in radio program where you can take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever is on your mind. The telephone number here in the studio is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass. Joining me,
the nobody formerly known as Rich Paul
and Peakless Mountaineer.
We were talking during the break that Beard Talk Live might need to become a thing, much like She Talk Live.
Yes,
right. But only the most bearded of us are on the show, which just happens to be tonight. So hopefully we can make that happen again in the future. I'm glad you guys are here. We've been talking about this.
Maybe we can get a clam to join us.
Only if it has a beard. We've been talking about this article from the Epoch Times about
the Epoxy Times.
No, that's those stories really stick.
They do. They do.
More companies join the Great Migration to red states, which, I mean, we can, go a little bit into this article. There's not much more to say other than that is a thing, and that's what's happening. Businesses are moving from Democratic states to more Republican states in order to save on their tax liabilities, is my understanding of how this works.
Well, that and be able to actually produce things because, people get regulated out of existence.
That's a fact.
Every hour you spend with some idiot bureaucrat who knows nothing about your business but is nonetheless going to tell you how to run it is an hour you can't spend doing something useful.
And I would say that the new wave that we're seeing, because I mean, as far as going to red states because you can keep more money and make more money and they're not, complete failures economically, that's been true for decades. But going to what I think is driving this red wave of migration is the COVID regime. Like, people were in these states that had these unbelievable tyrannical lockdowns. And I mean, while we were at Forkfest, you covered a survey about 44% of Americans believe we might be headed to civil war, and
right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 28% something. But one of the things about that is over 50% of people see the current government as tyrannical. We have passed the halfway point on that. So, I mean...
Which, I got to congratulate them on their finely developed ability to observe the obvious.
Thanks.
Yeah,
glad you noticed.
We've only been yelling and screaming, it's a tyrannical regime. I don't know. For me, it's I've been on this show for 3 years, and I did a little podcast before that. That was the same thing.
Just think about their sales pitch. Think about their sales pitch. We're going to be your security company. And if you don't make us your security company, then we're going to become your landlord. And we're even worse as a landlord than we are as a security company.
And only
so
source
you might
of food.
as well just buy the security you don't want instead of getting the whole package you don't want. I mean, that's straight out of the mafia.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I use this many times to describe to people what a horrible idea and statism is.
We're going to be your security provider. But when people are killing your children, we're going to gather outside the school and protect the killer from the irate parents. That will be our purpose. And all of those monsters should be indicted as co-conspirators and accessories before, during, and after the fact, because they were literally providing that killer with security to make sure nobody stopped him.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Ah!
Tell us how you really feel.
I'm grumpy about that.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody
I don't
should
even
be.
like kids.
Everybody should be. And I have no kids either, but to see that, and then to, of course, we bring it up all the time that the federal courts have ruled again and again and again and again that police have no duty to protect you or your children. None. Zero. Zip. Zilch.
Yeah.
So take
So they can force you
responsibility.
to buy a product you don't want, and then they don't have to deliver it.
Yeah, we had a caller shortly after that was saying, they really ought to legalize those armor-piercing rounds, so I can stop someone who's trying to stop me from saving my children from a killer.
Yes.
He had a point.
Yes. They should all be indicted as accessories.
Yes. They are accessories to murder. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Back to the Epic Times. There is a great...
they could just turn up in a ditch. I wouldn't mind that either.
There is a great migration going on, and I expect it to accelerate, says Glenn Hammer. I guess that's it. Or Hamer, I guess. It's one M.
Stop! It's hammer time.
Hammer time. President of the Texas Association of Business.
I used to work for a building contractor, and every time he needed a tool, he'd be like, "Stop! It's wrench time."
When the Caterpillars and the Elon Musks relocate, it's an advertisement to the entire country and the entire world that something positive is going on in that state.
Does he raise caterpillars?
Caterpillar, the tractor manufacturer.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
John Deere is not like, half man, half deer.
I just had this image of Elon Musk migrating, and what does he take with us? This colony of caterpillars.
If Musk migrates, is he muskrating?
I didn't know that caterpillars had musk. I need to brush up on my biology.
New Caterpillar by Odeon. It's got real bits of caterpillar in it, so it's good.
Yeah, one of the things for me about this whole migration that's a weird overlap, because at the moment, the political right, the Republicans and that sort of thing are less authoritarian. So I know that a lot of the people who are moving to these red states are also less authoritarian.
Well, according to a 2022 survey,
but Republicans are just authoritarian light. They're hardly
back and forth.
freedom.
It goes back and forth. 20 years ago, when they were doing right around 9/11 and let's start a million wars, the authorization for the use of military force, the Patriot Act. I mean, believe me, they were not the libertarian side.
During the
at that
60s,
point.
they were literally enslaving people and forcing them to go murder people in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
According to a 2022 survey of 700 CEOs, the top states for business are Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Arizona, and North Carolina. The worst were California, New York, Illinois, New Jersey, and Washington. Even companies like Apple, which did not move its headquarters to Texas, chose to establish its second largest campus for employees in Texas. So, for a company that wants to appear to be loyal to the Bay Area, they've built their second largest campus in one of the most business-friendly states.
Yeah, I
mean, Gates is a screaming leftist.
Yeah, I honestly feel sorry for a lot of the libertarians that are moving to places like Texas and Florida, because I think that a lot of them are going to be severely disappointed at how authoritarian that is and how authoritarian it becomes in the coming years, because this is a pendulum. It goes back and it goes forth. And at this point, we've pretty much hit peak madness on the left, so it's going to start swinging back to the right, and the right is going to become more authoritarian and more insane. So a lot of those people who pulled roots up to go down to Texas and Florida are going to have to pull roots up again to move to somewhere like New Hampshire.
You think the
that's
madness,
actually an anti-authoritarian place.
You think the madness is peakless?
Huh. Well, I mean, if Texas ever did secede, they'd institute the death penalty for smoking a sticky icky.
That's true.
Yeah, they probably would. And
now that I think it'd be worth the change, because it would encourage California to secede. It would encourage us to finally put through at least the option of seceding.
I'd encourage it because hopefully all the morons who support the war on drugs would go, they got the right idea, and move down there. Get the hell away from me.
I firmly believe that the first state to secede from the Union will start the domino effect.
Yes.
I firmly believe that. No, maybe not the first. The second one, though. It's like any social movement. They talk about the second man, right? The first man who stands up, everybody sort of looks at him crazy when he's like, hey, whatever we're doing here is wrong, right? And everybody kind of looks at him crazy or whatever.
Yeah, there's
it's
this amazing video
guy.
of, like,
I've been saying that for a long time.
Like this one man dancing all crazy, and like nothing happens. But then one other person goes and joins him, and then it's 5 people, and then it's 20 people, and then it's the whole crowd.
So once one state goes, another state will go. Once 2 states go, I think it's going to be a race to see who can secede, who's going to be the last, right? And the loser gets, I don't know, a lump of coal.
The loser gets stuck with the bill.
They're going to be trying to stick the losers with going and killing those who have seceded.
Hour number 2 of Free Talk Live is coming up next.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with President Biden's controversial arrival in Saudi Arabia for meetings with the king and top members of the royal family, including Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He, of course, is the Saudi royal accused by US intelligence of orchestrating the murder in Istanbul 4 years ago of Saudi-American journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But after earlier vowing to treat Saudi Arabia like a pariah, President Biden now finds himself re-engaging with the kingdom. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
Human rights are a strategic interest of the United States. So is energy security. So is stopping terrorism. So is seeking peace in a place like Yemen. We are trying to do multiple things all at once.
The president headed to Saudi Arabia from the West Bank, where he met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and toured a healthcare facility. Before that, in Israel, he had a complicated conversation about Iran with caretaker Prime Minister Yair Lapid. The president wants talks on reviving the Iran nuclear deal to be given more time.
I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome.
The Israeli Prime Minister, standing alongside President Biden, disagreed.
Words will not stop them, Mr. President. The only thing that will stop Iran is knowing that if they continue to develop their nuclear program, the free world will use force.
When the president returns to Washington, domestic problems abound. Inflation hit another 40-year high, 9.1% year-on-year for June. And a new poll showed almost two-thirds of Democrats don't want to see Joe Biden running for re-election, although he chose to accentuate the positive.
You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
In the UK, the race is on to succeed Prime Minister Boris Johnson. 11 candidates were up for the challenge at the start of the week. By the end of it, only 5 were still standing, with former Chancellor Rishi Sunak, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt considered the front-runners. The House of Representatives Committee investigating last year's violent insurrection by Donald Trump's supporters on Capitol Hill heard evidence relating to a proposal President Trump was considering to seize the nation's voting machines. It never happened, but only because it was blocked by his top lawyers. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of the dissident Republicans on the panel.
Donald Trump had access to more detailed and specific information showing that the election was not actually stolen than almost any other American. And he was told this over and over again.
The Trump family, meanwhile, is mourning following the death of Ivana Trump, the former president's ex-wife. She died of an apparent heart attack in New York at the age of 73. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. On Wall Street this week, investors will be turning their attention to corporate quarterly figures as earnings season ramps up. Traders will want to see how red-hot inflation and raising interest rates have impacted companies' bottom lines. From FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo with the preview.
Last week's Consumer Price Index report showed that inflation in the US is up at 41-year highs. That news has fueled speculation that the Federal Reserve may move even more aggressively in a bid to ease price pressures. The Fed convene at the end of the month, but inflation fears will continue to dominate sentiment on Wall Street in the coming trading week. Earnings season is also kicking into gear, and traders will be eager to see how those price pressures are influencing company bottom lines.
The Hong Kong government accused the US of cheap bullying behaviour last week after a congressional report said more sanctions may be imposed on city officials to protect public freedoms. From FSN's bureau in Hong Kong, Richard Kimber covered that story.
The Hong Kong government says the US is spreading misinformation about the city and attempting to intimidate its top prosecutors. A report from the United States Congressional Executive Commission on China said there had been an erosion of rule of law and human rights in Hong Kong, and that the international community might need to issue further sanctions against Hong Kong prosecutors in response to a growing number of political prisoners in the city. The Hong Kong government is dismissing that, and so too is the city's top legal association. It says all prosecutions are legally justified and based on evidence.
Stories will report in the coming week a red heatwave alert that weather forecasters say could cost lives in the UK. We'll keep covering the race to succeed Boris Johnson as UK Prime Minister, and the European Central Bank is poised to raise interest rates. Those stories here and on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
Later in the hour, the U.S. Postal Service announces that you can deliver the mail yourself if you think it's so easy. But first up in health news, researchers from Harvard University have found a strong link between male virility and wearing Motley Crue denim jackets. For the study, researchers paired fans of the band with a control group and found that those wearing Motley Crue attire were far more likely to knock out some chick's totally jacked boyfriend and then do it with her later that same day than those who simply wore casual clothes and probably wouldn't know what it feels like to have 2 threesomes in one night.
Men who own jackets with an image of Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx sitting on top of a pair of breasts with nipples in the shape of pentagrams showed higher levels of sexual potency, endurance, and libido. These guys do it all the time, and sometimes even in public. They don't care.
Although the study primarily focused on men in Motley Crue jackets, researchers also found that men who listened to Nirvana had a high likelihood of staying virgins forever.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
Power numero dos.
Dos.
That's two for those of you who don't speak Spanish, or de if you're French. Not duh, but de. I mean de. What is it? What's your ein, zwei? That's two. What other languages do I barely know?
Tell someone you love them today because life is short. But scream it at them in German because life is also terrifying and confusing.
It's
603-283-6160 is the phone number here. We're kicking off the second hour of tonight's Beard Talk Live. That's right. It's Free Talk Live, but with more beard. This might be the maximum amount of beard that's ever been sitting at these three chairs at this show.
More beard than your ears have room for.
Where the beard is bared.
Let's just go right away. Let's go to, we got Gigi calling from Charleston. Gigi, you're on Free Talk Live.
Good evening, everybody. That was a riot before I go into my current event shtick. That was a riot when Mark said, Ich lieber Mark. That's too goddamn funny.
That would be Peakless Mountaineer. That would be Peakless Mountaineer.
Somebody called me Ian earlier.
You know what? I've been told that I'm almost exactly like you, so I mean.
No, in the studio, it's the captain.
In the economy size,
who are you?
maybe.
I know, right?
I'm nobody.
And then who are you?
Peakless Mountaineer.
Peakless Mountaineer was the one who said that, Gigi.
Oh, okay. I beg your pardon. Well,
it's okay. Mark considers me his replacement anyway.
Okay. A few weeks ago, a gentleman who was a frequent caller, also from Charleston, he identifies himself as Robert. I remember the captain told him, please go online, read, and learn, since Robert says he's a news junkie, with respect, regarding his naivete with protect and serve the police using
Oh, yeah. His absolute refusal to believe that they have ever shot a dog.
That's right. Now we're hearing about the African-American young man from Ohio. How many goddamn bullets were in his body? Who was protecting and serving him?
Yeah.
They protected and served the crap out of him.
Yeah, I've come to the realization that when they say protect, they mean control. And when they say serve, they mean for dinner.
Well, they do protect and serve. They just don't protect and serve us. They protect and serve our self-appointed masters.
Oh, they serve us up to their owners.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to know why none of the alleged police officers, and there are many, why haven't they been put on leave without pay? They're still getting their paycheck.
Well, and supposedly there exists, and I haven't seen it, supposedly there exists what are known as good apples within these police departments. And it is totally within the power of people wearing badges to improve their reputation. How might they do that, you might ask? Well, I keep telling them that the easiest way for them to improve their reputation is just simply stop enforcing laws with no victim. If there's no property damage and there's no person harmed, they need to just stop enforcing all those laws. Their reputation will improve immediately.
Because if you only arrest people who are hurting people, it won't bother people.
County entity, you know that.
Hang on, you guys are talking over each other. Go ahead, Gigi.
I apologize. Excuse
That's
me.
okay.
I didn't mean to speak out of turn.
My fault.
I get excited, but I didn't mean to be rude.
I'm so excited.
Listen, we know it's all about generating revenue for a police entity, city, county, and or state. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, you know, it's a great thing that we've got these people protecting us. Otherwise, there might be these people that just, like, crouched, hiding in wait to steal our money from us. Oh, wait.
I got to tell you, gentlemen,
that's
something.
exactly what they do all of the time.
I grew up in a very affluent suburb of Miami. My father, when I was growing up for 15 years, God rest his soul, Daddy was a criminal court judge for the 11th Circuit in Miami, Florida, Miami-Dade County. My father drilled it into my head growing up. Never trust the police. Never let them look in your purse. Never let them look in the house. never let them in the house.
Yep.
I grew up petrified. If I got caught lying or doing something wrong, my mother would beat the crap out of me, and my father would punish me up the gazoo.
I'm sorry to hear about
I grew
that.
up.
Yeah.
No, I'm very sorry to hear that the boundaries in your household were enforced by violence is really unfortunate.
Oh, yes, I would agree with that as well. But what I'm trying to emphasize is that I learned as a young woman, be cautious with police. Many, many weeks ago, the captain said when he got pulled over, he immediately gives his ID, leaves his hands on the wheel, and makes it very clear verbally, I will not answer any questions. That's what Daddy taught me.
Amen to that, and thank you for the call,
The first thing I do
Gigi.
is pull out a camera and put an alert out on Cell 411.
Thanks for the call, Gigi. We appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, that's and this isn't legal advice. I'm not an attorney or anything, but in my summarization of things that I've learned, I can't point to one time in all of the articles that we've covered, and all the history that we've covered, and all the brilliance that we've had here on this show, and all the different callers that we have. I can't find one time where somebody went to court, could have been helped had they just opened their mouth and started talking to police at the time the police showed up.
Well, I will say that if it is a matter of being polite and cordial and, appearing friendly, it will sometimes get them to leave you alone.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you want to be friendly, but you want to say, I'm sorry, officer, I don't answer questions.
The one exception to that is when I carried a gun, the best tactic I ever found with cops was when they walked up to the door, be like, yeah, I'm carrying a pistol. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, what kind? And all of a sudden we're talking about guns, and
yep.
But never talk to them about whatever it is that's going on in your life at the moment.
One of the things Gigi was talking about, like things she learned growing up, one of the things I learned relatively young was when the cops come to your door and you go to answer it, you only open the door enough for you to get out and close the door behind you and talk to them outside. Do not open the door.
Actually,
do not let them put their foot in.
There's a better trick than that. What you do is, because they always come in pairs, and so they'll come to the door and they'll be like, we only want to talk. Well, how many of you are there? 2. Talk to each other.
Talk to each other. Yeah. Carry on a conversation out there. I'll be in here.
When I was living next door, I used to, if they came to the front door, I would go around out the back door, circle around behind them, and be like,
"Can I help
Yeah, you need to get off my property before we have any words."
Interesting. Did you learn anything, like sort of cautious how you approach police when you were young?
Oh, absolutely not. No, unfortunately, my parents were very strict believers in the idea that all government authority is by God and therefore inherently good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
I can't get on board with
tenets
that.
of religion are harder to buy than others, but, that's...
It's profoundly ironic because these are people who worship a man who is best known for being executed by an empire who believed that he was a threat to their power by being too much of a leader.
And executed by the equivalent of police.
Exactly.
Yeah. So somebody assumed I was a Christian because I was arguing the pro-gun side of an argument, and he said, "Well, how many guns did Jesus have?" And I said, "Not enough to prevent him from getting murdered by his government."
I thought maybe it was they're confusing you with Jesus because of the beard.
Well, that too. And, my obviously spiritual presence.
603-283-6160. That's the phone number if you want to join us. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
If you're David, a few well-chosen words can help level the playing field with Goliath. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com. Recently, I saw a Yellow Pages ad for an appliance repair company, and the headline read, "Why wait for Sears?" If you're going to the Yellow Pages, the Dead Sea Scrolls of advertising, you're ready to buy right now. So this is an attention-grabbing message. And how about the plumber whose radio ad says, "Call by noon Thursday, and we'll be there Saturday at no extra cost"? Smart guy. Most plumbing firms give their crew the weekend off. This one gives them Sunday and Monday off. In the words of a respected advertising executive, cut to the chase, make it quick, and tell me exactly what you can do for me, especially if you're looking for work. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Yes, come on and listen to Free Talk Live.
Yeah!
Yeah, you can join us by dialing 603-283-6160 and, get your voice heard on nationally syndicated radio, plus a whole bunch of internet streams and podcasts and even some satellite stations. We are Free Talk Live. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul. Vote for nobody, because nobody knows how to live your life better than you do, and nobody should be telling you what to do.
And Beakless Mountaineer, who you can't vote for if you wanted to.
Peakless, you almost said not mountaineer. What were you going to say?
Huh?
You almost didn't say. You stumbled.
Just washed your lips and you can't do a thing with them?
We're just
I was caught off guard by the sudden political campaign.
We're just going to go to your calls and thoughts. We have a pirate. Arr. Arr.
Yeah.
Ahoy.
Last night. Ahoy. Captain.
Oh, it's Major Payne calling from Michigan, by the way.
Why are pirates so cool?
You are on Free Talk Live.
Because they are.
Oh gosh.
Arr.
Hey, do you know the pirate alphabet?
Pirate alphabet.
Yeah, it's A, E, I, and of course R.
Indeed.
But anyway, yeah, they was talking about pirate radio stations last night, and I told the tale about the Mexican radio, and I thought that song was actually written about these cats that had a pirate radio station along the Texas border. And it appears that I may have been the victim of an urban legend.
Fake news.
So
Yeah, we kind of concluded that.
Well, proof positive right there that even back in the 70s, spam came in and out of the can.
Have you seen Spam Light? Do you know that they make this? And I'm like, what is the point of that? Why would you want diet spam?
Because
as long
it's
as I
cheap
got
and
you
high
guys
protein?
around, I am my own pirate radio station. So I thank you for that.
Groovy.
You are your own pirate radio station. Awesome.
I would just like to ask, how do you do a pirate alphabet without the C?
Oh my! I hadn't thought about that. That's the only missing letter was the C.
You can't have a pirate without the C.
I think that theory might be all wet. I'm not sure.
All right.
It could.
Anything else today, Major?
No,
but there's no reason to get salty about it.
All right. Well, nobody's talking over you anyway. So have a good night, Major. Thanks for the call. Let's move right along to. Let's see. I think we got Jerome calling from South Carolina. Jerome, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I want to talk about racial profiling. Just
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about cop versus cop.
Yeah, that was racial profiling because it was a white policeman that racial profiled a black policeman. Okay.
Wait, so the white policeman?
Bastard.
Wait, hang on. So the white policeman tried to arrest the black policeman because he was black?
He racially profiled him. He was when they pulled him over. Okay, he pulled him over. The white policeman pulled a black. He thought he was pulling over just a regular black driver.
Okay.
And when he went to talk to him, the man said, "I'm a cop," And he said he'd act like he didn't even care. He kept the black cop kept asking the white cop, "What did I do wrong?" And he just goes. The white cop just go around and around and around. I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to arrest you. And he just goes around and around and around. He wouldn't tell him what he did wrong. I mean, and they almost came to blows. Okay, this is how angry the black.
You don't happen to have names for these people, do you? So I can look up what the situation was.
It happened a couple of years ago.
Oh.
And you talking to that lady, you're talking to. It kind of triggered my memory, because I had never seen anything like that. But it was very eye-opening, to see that black police, even if you're black and you're a policeman, you can be racially profiled. Okay, it can happen to you. You can experience prejudice.
Well, eventually, I'm sure it came out that he was a policeman and therefore above the law. So I'm pretty sure he didn't end up with any charges.
He identified himself as the policeman.
Yeah, I can do that too.
Yeah, see, my favorite cop story is I come from Detroit. Up in Detroit, they had two gangs of undercover cops. One was the buyer on the deal. The other was the seller on the deal. Neither one knew they were cops. They tried to arrest each other and ended up in a huge brawl. This was back in the 90s.
Yeah, I got to tell you, identifying yourself as a policeman doesn't mean much. I've interfered with a couple of men trying to pull a woman out of her car, and believe me, they told me that they were cops. I didn't believe them, but they did tell me that.
I saw the story. I looked it up. I don't know if this was the story I saw, but there was one in Detroit where the black policeman was racially profiled by a white policeman. It happened in 2019 in Detroit, Michigan. So, I mean, that was an experience, and I still remember that. I said, whoa, hey, that could have ended up in gunfire or anything could have happened, you know.
So, Jerome,
If only we were that lucky.
I have a question, though, because you've used the term repeatedly, racially profiled or racial profiling. What happens when somebody racially profiles somebody else? What are the exact things? How do you know that, this one cop racially profiled the other one? What things occurred?
Because he refused to tell him what he did wrong. He wouldn't tell him. Because the cop that was being pulled over, he kept asking them, what did you do? And he made up some flimsy charge to try to make
Oh, gee, that's never happened to me before.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time.
I got pulled over for what turns out to be having a headlight out. One of my headlights had gone out. I got pulled over. And I didn't pull over soon enough to this female cop's liking. And so, she walks up to my door. I roll down the window, and she goes, "How come you didn't pull over right away?" And I said something along the lines of, well, safety, because I wanted to pull into a well-lit area, a parking lot that had nice lights, and also somewhere where if they were going to arrest me, I could leave my car without, getting towed away. So I pulled into a very public parking lot of a nice grocery store. And so she just went on to lecture me about why, she will be the one who decides when it's safe for me to pull over, not me. I won't decide my own safety. She'll decide for me. And went on this tirade about it. And then, she finished her tirade, and I'm like, well, okay, am I free to go? And she's like, I pulled you over because you had a headlight out. And I'm like, oh, do I? And I got out of the car and I looked and I'm like, hey, thanks. And she had already turned around to leave. So it was a comical ending to, something. These are people with guns, though, right? I don't care what color they are, what gender they are. These are people with guns. They got shiny badges and they think they're better than you.
Well, I used to have guns. I didn't have any badges, and I didn't think I was better than anybody.
See, the black policeman was driving one of those unmarked police cars, and I think the white policeman said he pulled him over for some kind of license plate violation. I said, license plate violation on an unmarked police car? Come on.
Yeah.
I don't know how that ended up, how it was resolved, but the black policeman, he was really angry.
I bet. Hey, thanks for the call tonight, Jerome. We appreciate it.
I got one tip for you. If you don't trust the police, then anybody who does is a fool. Black guns matter.
Black guns matter.
603-283-6160. More of your calls and thoughts are coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
I had a turning point in my life that happened right here on the air on Free Talk Live. A veteran, a guy who had served like 20 years in the military in both the Navy and the Army, called in and he asked me to rebut the statement. The military are a bunch of paid killers working for liars and thieves in Washington, D.C. Now, when you're stuck here on the air, you're on live radio. There's nowhere to go. You can't excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. You can't change the subject. You're a talk show host who has built their reputation on honesty and logic. What are you going to do when somebody says that to you? Well, when you don't have an answer to something, you're going to have to look really hard at the other side's opinion. And that's what I was left doing.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with President Biden's controversial arrival in Saudi Arabia for meetings with the king and top members of the royal family, including Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He, of course, is the Saudi royal accused by US intelligence of orchestrating the murder in Istanbul 4 years ago of Saudi-American journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But after earlier vowing to treat Saudi Arabia like a pariah, President Biden now finds himself re-engaging with the kingdom. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
Human rights are a strategic interest of the United States. So is energy security. So is stopping terrorism. So is seeking peace in a place like Yemen. We are trying to do multiple things all at once.
The president headed to Saudi Arabia from the West Bank, where he met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and toured a healthcare facility. Before that, in Israel, he had a complicated conversation about Iran with caretaker Prime Minister Yair Lapid. The president wants talks on reviving the Iran nuclear deal to be given more time.
I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome.
The Israeli Prime Minister, standing alongside President Biden, disagreed.
Words will not stop them, Mr. President. The only thing that will stop Iran is knowing that if they continue to develop their nuclear program, the free world will use force.
When the president returns to Washington, domestic problems abound. Inflation hit another 40-year high, 9.1% year-on-year for June. And a new poll showed almost two-thirds of Democrats don't want to see Joe Biden running for re-election, although he chose to accentuate the positive.
You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
In the UK, the race is on to succeed Prime Minister Boris Johnson. 11 candidates were up for the challenge at the start of the week. By the end of it, only 5 were still standing, with former Chancellor Rishi Sunak, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt considered the front-runners. The House of Representatives Committee investigating last year's violent insurrection by Donald Trump's supporters on Capitol Hill heard evidence relating to a proposal President Trump was considering to seize the nation's voting machines. It never happened, but only because it was blocked by his top lawyers. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of the dissident Republicans on the panel.
Donald Trump had access to more detailed and specific information showing that the election was not actually stolen than almost any other American. And he was told this over and over again.
The Trump family, meanwhile, is mourning following the death of Ivana Trump, the former president's ex-wife. She died of an apparent heart attack in New York at the age of 73. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back, and thank you for listening to Free Talk Live. You can find out all about us over at freetalklive.com. Thank you for tuning in and listening. In the studio, it's myself, Nobody, and...
Beakless Mountaineer.
And even though nobody's not here, nobody is still here because nobody is in that chair.
He really is the opposite of Schrodinger's cat. When nobody's not there, he's still here. So nobody's always here.
I can't imagine the word Schrodinger in my head to pronounce it backwards, but I would try if I could. Anyway, moving right along. I had the opportunity to just sort of look at the Washington Post's article on Mr. Walker's shooting. And, yeah, it's as heinous as you think it is. 46 times this dude was shot. Apparently unarmed. So, yeah, you know.
Why did you shoot everybody in the house? He was home.
A hail of bullets from people claiming to protect and serve. Just not you or him. So,
yeah.
We can talk more about that, but we also have some callers. Let's go to Olivia in Arizona. Olivia, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, I have a quote for Nobody that I haven't heard him use before, but I think he could get a lot of use out of.
All right.
It's a Henry David Thoreau quote, and it says, "Any fool can make a rule, and any fool will mind it."
Ah, yes, I like that.
That is great. Who'd you say that was? Thoreau?
Yeah.
Yes.
Henry David Thoreau?
One of my favorites.
What do you think, Nobody? Are you going to incorporate that into your Nobodyisms?
I probably will.
What else is on your mind, Olivia?
I've been watching like prison videos since I have a prison pen pal, and something made me realize why we need guns. So I was watching, it was something one of the YouTubers said, and I realized, so you have thousands of some of the hardest, baddest, toughest, most resourceful criminal element in one place all together, and only a couple hundred maybe guards keeping them from walking out the door. So what's stopping them, right? It's just guns.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and the other reason that the regular average person walking around planet Earth may want to possess a gun is to take personal responsibility for their own security. This is something that, is key, I think, to being a freedom-oriented person. I don't care what title you give yourself, if you're anarchist, libertarian, voluntarist, or just, none of the above. Taking personal responsibility for your own security seems to be a good idea, particularly because the courts keep ruling again and 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 again that police have no duty to protect you or your children or your families or anybody else except for, I don't know who, themselves perhaps, and maybe the elite.
The politicians.
Yes.
That's right. All people have to do is look up Warren versus District of Columbia or DeShaney versus it was Social Services Department of, I can't remember which county, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess my point is that so it doesn't matter how tough you are, how strong you are. Like if the government wanted to keep people locked up or under their thumb, all it would take was a few hundred people in a certain area with guns. And if you don't have one, you're doing what you're told. It doesn't matter really and much else, And we see that with prisons. The only reason those guys do what they're told is because, they can't. They can't not do it.
Well,
overwhelming force.
The other thing that the government has is a worldwide network of people that will never, ever stop looking for you, and they'll steal as much of other people's money as it takes to do whatever they can to you. But the other thing to keep in mind with prison and guns is, you think you're going to be safe without guns? How safe are they in prison where only the guards have guns?
Right.
There's a lot of people getting killed in prison.
And I've heard
they're
rumors,
getting killed without
I've heard rumors
guns.
there's rapes that go on unpunished in those places.
It's true.
And drugs. There's drugs inside prison. So, the one thing I do want to say...
Well, nobody's going to shoot the drugs anyway.
You are? You are? Sorry.
I didn't do it.
That was a nobody joke. The one thing I want to say about people who claim to be anti-gun, right? These are people who are like, we want a ban on assault weapons, or we want it to be super illegal for you to own a gun. They're not really anti-gun. They're just anti you having a gun. What they're pro-gun because they only want government to have the guns. They're pro-gun, very pro-gun, and they want government to pull those guns out and point them at you because you want to take personal responsibility for your own security, and none of that makes sense.
And I just imagine that if you are a member of an organization that has outright murdered this many people, maybe you don't qualify for gun ownership.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Biden says mentally ill people shouldn't have guns. This coming from a senile child molester who has his finger on the nuclear button. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. The first person we should disarm is you.
Hey, Olivia, thanks for the call.
Before we run off, I wanted to match quote for quote on Henry David Thoreau. One of my favorites is, wherever you may seek solitude, men will ferret you out and compel you to belong to their desperate company of oddfellows.
Ooh, that's a good one. Those were all excellent points, and I love that quote.
Hey, thanks for the call, Olivia. We appreciate it.
Peace.
It should be, I know that it's military tactics 101, right? One of the first things that you get taught as far as like military strategy
have a gun.
is that the most difficult place to conquer is a heavily armed population.
Right.
And so if your government really was about protecting you or some geographic area that they've drawn on the map or whatever it is, they would almost do the opposite of what they're doing. They would probably start handing weapons out to the population if they were really
you mean like
serious.
they did in
They're
Ukraine
serious
now?
about defending the Ukraine. They're not serious about defending America.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, and I mean, there's a reason that up until fairly recently, Switzerland was the neutral country of the world. And there's a reason they got away with not having these alliances of, oh, well, if you attack me, that means all these people are at war with you too. And the reason is because they had a heavily armed population. It's really that simple. I mean, people are like, well, you can't defend yourself against the government unless you have F-15s and tanks and nuclear submarines. It's like,
tell that to the Taliban, the Viet Cong.
Precisely my point.
Yep.
There are plenty of places where they were underarmed by those comparisons, but the fact that they had some amount of armament and a willing population to fight off the imperial oppressors that were trying to dominate them into subservience meant that they could.
It helps if you have cast iron testicles, too.
Doesn't hurt.
I don't think I would ever want to put mine into something that cast them in iron.
Well, and I mean, that is one thing that like really disappointed me about Texas. I mean, they talk real big about, oh yeah, we got the shotgun in the back of the pickup. But when it comes down to, yeah, you're not allowed to go to church anymore because there's a flu. Turns out no one has the spine to stand up against someone telling them what to do.
Well, their gun laws are also pretty bad. New Hampshire is way better in terms of gun freedom.
Yeah, it's an undeserved
Texas
reputation.
has ever been.
603-283-6160. That's the telephone number here. We'll get more of your calls and more Free Talk Live coming up. It's the Saturday night edition.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio is great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back to Free Talk Live. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Peakless Mountaineer.
Do you really want liberty in your lifetime?
I do.
I know I do.
Oh, yeah.
Later this year, Mark Edge of Free Talk Live is speaking at Free Cities Foundation's annual conference, Liberty in Our Lifetime. It's going to be held in the beautiful city of Prague, October 21st through the 23rd, and it showcases autonomous cities and intentional communities that are springing up around the world, offering opportunities for settlers to live freer lives. The conference theme is Parallel Structures for Progress, and will explore physical developments and parallel structures emerging in education and finance that offer alternatives for people looking for better ways to learn, educate their children, and invest in their future. Free Private Cities is offering all Free Talk Live listeners a special 20% discount on tickets, which can be claimed on checkout using the promo code FTL20. That's FTL20. To find out more about the conference, visit lifetimeliberty.com and follow the conference on Twitter using the handle @LibertyIOL. Make sure to get your tickets soon and take advantage of the early bird discount. If you'd like to buy your ticket in Bitcoin, you can drop them a Twitter DM for instructions on how to do so. Again, lifetimeliberty.com. Use the code FTL20. It's in Prague, October 21st through the 23rd. So
that's where the program is.
I made some joke recently about if you're in a prog band and you're from Prague, are you just in a band?
Yeah. Like
Anyway.
if you're wearing rose-colored glasses, the red flags just look like flags.
That's true.
Look, they're surrendering.
If you're in China and you go out for Chinese food, you really just go out for food. It's true. Let's go to your calls and thoughts. We've got Bill calling from Delaware. Bill, you're on Free Talk Live.
Okay, thank you for taking my call, Captain. I am following up on the call that the woman made earlier about the 46 shots into this young black boy in Akron, Ohio.
Yes, indeed.
I heard on one news report on this 3 days ago, I heard it only once and never heard it again, is that the woman who was speaking from the news report said the police never checked the boy's hands for gunfire residue.
Oh.
And that's what they
the
said.
plot
And
thickens.
that is very important.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was terribly suspicious when I found out, wait, so he left the gun and the magazine separately on the passenger side seat. Well, gee, how convenient.
Yeah. See that,
and unlikely.
I mean, if you're gonna take a shot at the cops, you might as well go whole hog, because they're only gonna kill you once, and they're gonna kill you that once.
Well, here's the thing that I'm concerned about. They said, according to police dash cams or from their cameras, their body cameras, that the boy fired a gun out the window.
Well, right. One of the officers said he heard a shot.
Yeah.
Now,
it could have been anything.
Right. Now, it doesn't mean that he saw a shot, because there's something called muzzle flash. If the gun is pointed at you, generally speaking, you see.
Okay. He might have been smoking out the window, too. You never know.
Yeah.
Now, but the thing is, if he fired a weapon, there would be gun residue all over his hand.
That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And that's easy enough to check, but
it's really easy to check.
That.
Yeah, this couple of sentences.
But how easy is it to apply after the fact? Because I don't put anything past the cops. I think they will very happily fake evidence if they get the chance.
A lot of people looking at this, and people were taking videos of this.
Yeah, well, this from the Washington Post. It says, on Friday, Kohler said Walker's hands were not tested for gunshot residue during the autopsy, a practice the office discontinued in 2016.
Wow.
While the test can detect gunshot residue, it cannot be used as an absolute judgment of whether a person fired a weapon, Kohler said, because the particles it detects can be easily removed.
Huh.
But the thing is,
they can be removed, so that's a false negative, but it would still tell you something if that was there.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
If there was residue there, it would say in a short period of time after he was dead, he wasn't going to move. He wasn't going to do anything with his hands at that point, and either he had it on there or he didn't.
Well, there is one exception to that, because you have to remember who is being entrusted with the body. The police.
Right.
The coroner.
Right.
Well, the coroner who works very closely with the police.
The dim-witted police. That's
right.
Who they are.
Right. The coroner who, I mean, they're basically part of one gang, really. So, I mean, essentially you have this unbelievable access to the corpse by the very people who may have just murdered this guy.
Yeah.
That's correct. And here in
that's
Delaware,
how they usually. Oh, good.
Here in Wilmington, about a year ago, the medical examiner coroner got fired because he was doing things improperly, fudging tests, and so forth. Those kind of things that fired him, and he should be in jail if you ask me. I think they took his license away.
Well, I mean, there is just endless evidence of police and their associates lying to cover up for each other. So, I mean, it's not that hard for them to, take a gun into the morgue with a blank, put it in his hand and fire it, and, oh, look, there's residue here. So, I mean, while I wouldn't necessarily trust it either way, it's still weird that they're not testing this at all.
In Massachusetts, there was a woman who worked in the drug lab who faked thousands and thousands of tests.
I remember that.
And I'm not generally a supporter of the death penalty, but I would definitely vote to have her ride the lightning.
Apparently, the Akron city officials, are so worried about riots and that kind of a thing that they canceled their 4th of July celebration. They implemented curfews and called for demonstrations to be peaceful. On Wednesday, hundreds attended Walker's funeral during a citywide day of mourning. During the service, Reverend Robert DeJournette, a cousin of Walker, said the names of more than 10 black people who were killed by police. The list ended with Walker. Now, I imagine, are those 10 black people killed this year? I imagine they're all recent things, because I think that list would be more than 10.
Well, anyway, that's what. Thank you for your input on this about the. I did not read the thing from the New. Was it from the New York Times?
I just happened to be reading from the Washington Post. I looked it up.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me, because that explains some things.
Hey, we appreciate the call, Bill.
Yeah, it's a suspicious circumstance all around, and unfortunately, no one that I trust is going to investigate it.
Yeah, in fact, it said here it was going to be an internal investigation by the Akron Police Office of Professional Standards and Accountability.
Wait,
we're going to investigate ourselves and find we did nothing wrong.
That was the very premonition I was having.
You had a prophecy?
I had
a
premonition, a vision that they would investigate themselves and find that they had done nothing wrong.
It is so...
That always happens when I investigate myself, too.
Like, when you start, like, really thinking about the non-aggression principle and applying it to everyday life, it is comical. It's beyond comical how predictable this stuff is regarding the state. Right, exactly. You guys both had the same thing, right? You know, oh, they're going to investigate themselves. Right? How many times have we heard that? Hundreds of times. They investigated themselves, found they did nothing wrong. They investigated themselves, found they did nothing wrong.
It's generally a safe bet. People are going to do what they always do.
You know, I got a bunch of chickens.
What they always do.
I got a bunch of chickens missing, but I talked to the foxes and they said they didn't do it. So, I mean, case closed.
It remains a mystery.
One of those foxes was pretty foxy, too.
Oh, she was a vixen.
Wait, isn't Vixen a reindeer?
No, you're thinking of
that's
Blitzen?
venison.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the female-fronted, all-female hair metal band called Vixen. Out of I don't know, 82 or something.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vixen is literally female fox.
How can you tell if girls are doing hair metal?
Yeah, they do kind of dress the same as the dudes,
4
right?
pounds of hairspray.
Well, yeah, but that's what the dudes do too, and they all wear spandex. And you're right. I don't know that I could actually differentiate them between some of the hair metal dudes. So, yeah, 603-283-6160. Hour number 3 of Free Talk Live is coming up.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with President Biden's controversial arrival in Saudi Arabia for meetings with the king and top members of the royal family, including Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He, of course, is the Saudi royal accused by US intelligence of orchestrating the murder in Istanbul 4 years ago of Saudi-American journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But after earlier vowing to treat Saudi Arabia like a pariah, President President Biden now finds himself re-engaging with the kingdom. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
Human rights are a strategic interest of the United States. So is energy security. So is stopping terrorism. So is seeking peace in a place like Yemen. We are trying to do multiple things all at once.
The president headed to Saudi Arabia from the West Bank, where he met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and toured a healthcare facility. Before that, in Israel, he had a complicated conversation about Iran with caretaker Prime Minister Yair Lapid. The president wants talks on reviving the Iran nuclear deal to be given more time.
I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome.
The Israeli Prime Minister, standing alongside President Biden, disagreed.
Words will not stop them, Mr. President. The only thing that will stop Iran is knowing that if they continue to develop their nuclear program, the free world will use force.
When the president returns to Washington, domestic problems abound. Inflation hit another 40-year high, 9.1% year-on-year for June. And a new poll showed almost two-thirds of Democrats don't want to see Joe Biden running for re-election, although he chose to accentuate the positive.
You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
In the UK, the race is on to succeed Prime Minister Boris Johnson. 11 candidates were up for the challenge at the start of the week. By the end of it, only 5 were still standing, with former Chancellor Rishi Sunak, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt considered the front-runners. The House of Representatives Committee investigating last year's violent insurrection by Donald Trump's supporters on Capitol Hill heard evidence relating to a proposal President Trump was considering to seize the nation's voting machines. It never happened, but only because it was blocked by his top lawyers. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of the dissident Republicans on the panel.
Donald Trump had access to more detailed and specific information showing that the election was not actually stolen than almost any other American. And he was told this over and over again.
The Trump family, meanwhile, is mourning following the death of Ivana Trump, the former president's ex-wife. She died of an apparent heart attack in New York at the age of 73. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. On Wall Street this week, investors will be turning their attention to corporate quarterly figures as earnings season ramps up. Traders will want to see how red-hot inflation and raising interest rates have impacted companies' bottom lines. From FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo with the preview.
Last week's Consumer Price Index report showed that inflation in the US is up at 41-year highs. That news has fueled speculation that the Federal Reserve may move even more aggressively in a bid to ease price pressures. The Fed convene at the end of the month, but inflation fears will continue to dominate sentiment on Wall Street in the coming trading week. Earnings season is also kicking into gear, and traders will be eager to see how those price pressures are influencing company bottom lines.
The Hong Kong government accused the US of cheap bullying behaviour last week after a congressional report said more sanctions may be imposed on city officials to protect public freedoms. From FSN's bureau in Hong Kong, Richard Kimber covered that story.
The Hong Kong government says the US is spreading misinformation about the city and attempting to intimidate its top prosecutors. A report from the United States Congressional Executive Commission on China said there had been an erosion of rule of law and human rights in Hong Kong, and that the international community might need to issue further sanctions against Hong Kong prosecutors in response to a growing number of political prisoners in the city. The Hong Kong government is dismissing that, and so too is the city's top legal association. It says all prosecutions are legally justified and based on evidence.
Stories will report in the coming week a red heatwave alert that weather forecasters say could cost lives in the UK. We'll keep covering the race to succeed Boris Johnson as UK Prime Minister, and the European Central Bank is poised to raise interest rates. Those stories here and on Twitter at Feature Story, and that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
They started with Google Glass, and now the engineers behind Google have created a new body part to strap gadgets onto. They're calling it the flange, and the new synthetic skin appendage fits between the shoulder blades into a flat surface capable of holding a wide array of new gadgets for Google to hawk to consumers. While unveiling the innovation today, Google CEO Larry Page said, quote, "The possibilities for the number of completely pointless gadgets to strap, bind, and stick to your body are now endless." Early adopters are already raving about the synthetic body part.
It overheats and burns my skin pretty bad when I have it on, but I'm really getting to like it.
I'm actually thinking of getting a second one installed.
Critics are cautioning the tech world to not hail the flange as an achievement yet, since several users have reported problems with the device permanently grafting to their spinal column if worn overnight. Coming up next, Doritos unveils new e-Doritos that come in JPEG form whenever you're hungry.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live, your favorite live call-in radio program that comes to you from the perspective of peace, liberty, freedom, and prosperity. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Your mother.
And Beakless Mountaineer.
Nobody's my mother?
You bastard.
Son of a motherless goat.
I guess that would make me a bastard.
It would have to.
Yes, indeed. 603-283-6160.
Super bastard if you can't identify your mother.
No, I thought a super bastard needed to wear a cape and have powers.
That too.
Super bastard to the rescue. 603-283-6160. Do you guys, you want to do mystery caller? Mystery caller, you're on Free Talk Live, unscreened. You're live and on the radio. Hello, mystery caller. Going once. Mystery caller going twice. Wireless caller going 3 times. All right. Well, I guess they didn't really want to be on the show.
They're wireless now.
So, where should we go next? How about this? We talked a little bit about guns already today. This is from FEE. What is FEE?
The Foundation for Economic Education.
Thank you. FEE.org. The federal government's own study concluded its ban on assault weapons did not reduce gun violence.
Shocking.
But they want to do it again anyway because ineffective solutions are their favorite solution.
Well, they didn't lock down hard enough.
So there has been some recent legislation proposed in the United States regarding guns and things of that nature, and generally there always is. It's an ongoing battle. The government wants to take away your ability to defend yourself, and they should have no say in that whatsoever. As a free man who is responsible and taking responsibility for himself and his own security, the government should have zero say in any of that.
Well, certainly anybody who's routinely engaged in felonies like extortion and murder should not be making my security decisions for me. And that's what government does, extortion and murder.
Agreed. And when these politicians come out and they talk about
also kidnapping.
Yeah, these politicians come out and they talk about, you know, how, oh, well, blah, 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 and you don't need a gun for this, and you don't need a gun for that. Great. Show us how it's done. Stop having bodyguards with guns. Stop, put down the guns of government. Have your police put down all their guns. Have the military put down their guns. Show us how it's done. And if you
provide a good product, people will still buy it. But you don't, and they won't.
Show us how it's done, government. Put down your guns first. Show us how to get things done without violence, without murder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the people who support these ideas, I mean, they really just want to feel like they're doing everything they can. And if there's some...
Even if it's stupid.
Yeah, even if it's stupid, even if it doesn't work, even if it causes tremendous trouble by doing it, as long as they're trying, we gotta do something. Why isn't anyone doing anything? We gotta do something about this, even if what we do always makes it worse.
So this article is from a little like June 6th, so they make some references that are a bit outdated. However, the 1994 assault weapons ban. There are numerous problems with this proposal, starting with why the sticky question of defining what an assault weapon is. Assault rifles, which by definition are capable of selective fire, are already banned under the National Firearms Act of 1934. The vague phrase assault weapon is basically a tautology by definition. Any weapon can be used to assault someone and virtually useless. The term might be effective politically, but as the economist Thomas Sowell has pointed out, the guns politicians choose to define as assault weapons typically are no more dangerous than others that are not specified.
But they look scary.
They're black. They're even racist when it comes to guns.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. We know this because the U.S. had a ban on assault weapons as recently as 2004, something gun control supporters recently pointed out on Twitter. We had an assault weapon ban for 10 years, 1994 to 2004, said Dr. Joanne Freeman, a historian at Yale University. The world didn't end. People kept their other guns. They bought new guns. It was hardly an attack on gun ownership. The Public Safety and Recreational Firearms Use Protection
unless
Act.
you're one of the millions of people who's out thousands of dollars as a result of an ineffective program.
Right. The Public Safety and Recreational Firearms Use Protection Act of 1994 targeted firearms deemed, quote, useful in military and criminal applications, but unnecessary in shooting, sports, or self-defense.
Military uses the AR-15, which is a semi-automatic rifle. They use full auto M16s, M4s, and other such weapons. And God, if the morons in our government want to convince me of anything about guns, the first thing they would have to do is actually know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, if a gun looks scary, then it's obviously a criminal
they all
gun.
Look scary. They'll kill if you're looking at the wrong end of them.
Yeah, well, and
and I will point out that this isn't what we mean when we say black guns matter. We mean to say that we're very much in favor of putting guns in the hands of black people because you were the ones they wanted to keep disarmed when gun control was invented.
Oh, yeah. It was, Ronald Reagan actually signed the bill that outlawed open carry in California. Well, why the hell did he do that? Because the Black Panthers were open carrying. Well, Ronald Reagan isn't around anymore, and I'd like to see the Black Panthers come back because the Black Panthers did a lot of good I don't agree with all of their politics, but I don't have to because they weren't interested in controlling me or my community.
You to follow their politics.
They were interested in helping out their own community, and they did a good job of it in a lot of ways. They also invented cop blocking, and cop blocking is a wonderful thing.
Well, I was referring to the very first gun controls, which happened directly after the freeing of the slaves.
During Reconstruction, they were trying to stop black people from forming militias to defend themselves against the Ku Klux Klan.
Exactly.
So during this 10-year period of bans on assault-style weapons, there was a decline in crimes committed with firearms that were banned, but the drop was replaced by crimes committed with other types of firearms that were not banned.
It reminds me of my favorite Archie Bunker line ever. Gloria, the little idiot, says, do you realize that 30,000 people a year are murdered by firearms in the United States? And Archie looks at her and says, would you feel better if they was pushed out a windows, little girl?
Yes, and it is true that the choice to kill always happens before the choice of weapon. So
that's true.
And you can see this in places where, guns are banned, places like Australia, parts of England, right, where the police yell halt, or I'll yell halt again, right? People just use other weapons.
Actually, since they outlawed guns in England, the police have had to arm themselves because the violence has gotten so much worse.
Now, I got a quick question. Have you ever been asked by a policeman when they pull you over, do you have any weapons in the car?
I have.
That is the most idiotic question I have ever heard in my life. And I will answer truthfully no, because right now I haven't decided to make any of them a weapon. But I'll tell you what, I can turn just about anything into a weapon.
Yeah, that's a lot of the principles of, what is it, Jeet Kune Do, ninjutsu, some other martial arts I can't think of off the top of my head, where, like, the idea is that anything can be a weapon.
And it's that same principle. If you decide that you're going to kill people, you're going to kill people. And if you can't do it this way, you'll do it that way.
Do you have a weapon in the car? Yes. I have my squishy frontal lobe.
My weapon is the car. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
603-283-6160. That is the telephone number here at Free Talk Live in the studio. Tonight, it is myself, the captain.
Nobody.
And Peakless Mountaineer.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of that here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it is really taking off now with well over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line about COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. I am surprised it still exists.
I really am, too.
Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel. Just visit video.freetalklive.com. If you do want to go all in, download the desktop app over at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed to keep it online forever. Again, follow us on Odysee over at video.freetalklive.com.
And in the meantime, don't tell YouTube we're not communists.
I do want to make mention of something that I only mentioned one time, maybe about a week or so before it happened. There is an HBO television series called The Anarchists. This is a 6-part documentary series. I believe it's the Jaws music.
Yeah.
It is a 6-part series, and I believe episode number 2 is going to air tonight. It's a HBO Max production. It follows a bunch of very freedom-oriented people through the events of the last 6 years. They followed him around for 6 years surrounding Anarchapulco, one of the largest freedom events.
Well, I got followed around for 6 years and it was the FBI.
Yeah, maybe we should make a nobody documentary.
Somebody should.
We need a filmmaker.
Well, we've got Bo.
Okay.
Well,
and we've got a voice guy, right? We can employ Zeus. So,
yeah.
We need
just got to find somebody to finance.
Yeah, and produce it. At any rate, that's going on. So, if you want to hear about the non-aggression principle and some folks who subscribe to that and their perspective on the events surrounding Anarchapulco over the last 6 or so years, tune into that. So far, I've seen episode 1. I invited a few close friends to view it with me, and will continue to do so throughout the series. So far, it's not a hit piece. So far, I've only seen it's only 1 episode's out, so episode 2 will air tonight.
It's so nice when they do something about non-communists and it's not a hit piece, and so rare.
Well, and I think a lot of folks are disappointed because it seems to focus a bit on Jeff Berwick, who's the founder of Anarchapulco. He also used to do a YouTube thing called Anarchast.
I liked Anarchast. It was a good show.
I also did enjoy his YouTube channel. But I think the reason they can get away with telling this story and it not be a hit piece is because it all happens outside of the empire of the United States. Right. So Jeff Berwick, being a Canadian guy, made some money during the .com era, sold his business, and went on down to, he ended up sort of putting down roots in Acapulco, Mexico, and one day starts this Anarchapulco, this freedom conference, because he was tired. So the whole thing happens.
He was tired?
He was tired of going
being the only anarchist around?
I was going to say, because that's a lot of work to do when you're tired.
He was tired of coming to America for all these freedom conferences and having to get harassed by the TSA and, produce all sorts of documents and paperwork. And
shove this into your brain and then bend over, please.
Thousands standing around.
So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it is airing Sunday nights, HBO Max. We're doing our viewings on Mondays, so, give it a watch. Let us know what you think. Let's go to your calls and thoughts. We have Robert calling from Charleston. Robert, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, I just wanted to say that in 1917, after what they call in Russia the Great October Revolution, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin
I didn't think it was so great.
Well, the communists thought so, at least the ones at the top did, but the workers were not so sure. So anyhow, he went to Vladimir Lenin, loved to go to the factories to see how the workers were doing and to say hello and to do a little public relations. And he saw a worker with a gun, a rifle. So he walked over and tried to take it from him. And the guy pulled back and he said, "Нет, это можно годиться," which means no, this could come in handy. So even then, the workers were still very suspicious, apparently, of the communist leadership at the time.
Well, when it comes to solutions, that was the only part Marx got right, is arming the workers.
Yeah, and Marx actually, a lot of leftists won't realize this, but Marx said that any attempt to disarm the working people of wherever you are must be resisted by force if necessary. Even a stopped clock is right twice a day.
Hey, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. I saw a meme recently going around the internet, and it's something like this. The reason that they want to disarm you is because they're afraid that what they're about to do to you will result in you taking aim at them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really the only reason to disarm people. Now, they will have what is referred to as useful idiots who, the problem with all these things is all the guns. All this gun violence exists because of the guns. So, I mean, honestly, I assume that these are mostly well-meaning people who simply don't know any better. Now, as far as they're concerned,
they really should spend their time cutting off their dicks to fight rape, though.
Yeah. That's about as useful. It really is. And as far as those people go, I trust their sincerity. Like they're tired of hearing the news constantly drone on about the next gun violence thing. But as far as the people who are organizing and funding these movements, now what they want is to disarm the population because they're about to pull some ass that everyone is going to want to fight, and they want no one to be able to.
Probably the same people who are organizing and funding these mass shooters who, it's kind of amazing. This 18-year-old kid who did a shooting, he worked at like Walmart or something. Mm-hmm. He had like $20,000 worth of guns. Where'd he get that? Interesting question. Top of the line AR-15 clones. The $1,000 version, not the $300 version. Where'd he get that? Somebody paid for it. Wasn't him.
These are the questions, and very good questions. And
why did the Texas police protect the shooter against the parent?
Again, more good questions. 603-283-6160. If you have the answers, give us a call. This is Free Talk Live. More is on the way.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with President Biden's controversial arrival in Saudi Arabia for meetings with the King and top members of the royal family, including Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He, of course, is the Saudi royal accused by US intelligence of orchestrating the murder in Istanbul 4 years ago of Saudi-American journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But after earlier vowing to treat Saudi Arabia like a pariah, President President Biden now finds himself re-engaging with the kingdom. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
Human rights are a strategic interest of the United States. So is energy security. So is stopping terrorism. So is seeking peace in a place like Yemen. We are trying to do multiple things all at once.
The president headed to Saudi Arabia from the West Bank, where he met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and toured a healthcare facility. Before that, in Israel, he had a complicated conversation about Iran with caretaker Prime Minister Yair Lapid. The president wants talks on reviving the Iran nuclear deal to be given more time.
I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome.
The Israeli Prime Minister, standing alongside President Biden, disagreed.
Words will not stop them, Mr. President. The only thing that will stop Iran is knowing that if they continue to develop their nuclear program, the free world will use force.
When the president returns to Washington, domestic problems abound. Inflation hit another 40-year high, 9.1% year-on-year for June. And a new poll showed almost two-thirds of Democrats don't want to see Joe Biden running for re-election, although he chose to accentuate the positive.
You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
In the UK, the race is on to succeed Prime Minister Boris Johnson. 11 candidates were up for the challenge at the start of the week. By the end of it, only 5 were still standing, with former Chancellor Rishi Sunak, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt considered the front-runners. The House of Representatives Committee investigating last year's violent insurrection by Donald Trump's supporters on Capitol Hill heard evidence relating to a proposal President Trump was considering to seize the nation's voting machines. It never happened, but only because it was blocked by his top lawyers. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of the dissident Republicans on the panel.
Donald Trump had access to more detailed and specific information showing that the election was not actually stolen than almost any other American. And he was told this over and over again.
The Trump family, meanwhile, is mourning following the death of Ivana Trump, the former president's ex-wife. She died of an apparent heart attack in New York at the age of 73. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live. It is the Saturday night edition. And before we get back to your calls and your thoughts, I want to say thank you to Eric Haley. Eric Haley is a gold level amplifier. What does that mean? That means Eric finds enough value in this particular radio program that he wants to support us. And he went over to amps.freetalklive.com. That's AMPS. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. amps.freetalklive.com. And he decided to become a contributor to this program. Where does that money go? Well, that money goes primarily to get us onto more radio stations. So if you enjoy the subjects, the perspective, the hosts, the co-hosts, the cast of characters, the callers that we have, if you're just an avid listener, if you're a caller yourself and you derive value out of this program, please consider becoming an amplifier. Help us spread the message of liberty, freedom, peace, and prosperity to more people. Thank you again, Eric Haley, for your contributions and for being an amplifier. amps.freetalklive.com. All right, moving right along. Let's go to, we've got Jill calling from Virginia. Jill, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I think this campaign against guns is actually a kind of just a campaign at bottom, a campaign against self-defense. You can see this in homes and in schoolhouses, too. The person in charge says, don't fight. If somebody does something to you, come to me. But you come to the person in charge, and the person in charge, why do you keep quarreling? Why do you keep bothering me? And doesn't want to do anything about it. And in the schoolyard, you see, if somebody kicked you in the shin, well, you're not supposed to retaliate. You just come to me. So you come to the person in authority, and nothing is done short of a lot of words. This is hypocritical garbage,
Oh, yeah.
and that's the way it often carries on.
Yeah, you don't see anybody trying to ban, Taekwondo dojos, right? Because, well, everybody's like, well, that's self-defense. Well, okay, but so is owning a gun. That is self-defense.
But, that's probably a future step. Do you know that in England, you can't buy cutlery without going through what we have to go through to get a gun?
Mm-hmm.
You can't buy a knife.
Yeah, and I do honestly wonder if in England it's going to reach a point where the muggings will simply be a matter of proving that you know martial arts. And then give me your wallet.
No, the criminals will still have
banned,
weapons.
Well, I mean, they've banned the knives. How long before they ban the chains and then pieces of pipe
and forks and spoons and plates? Jill, your thoughts?
Screwdriver,
what if the antagonist didn't actually kill you or take your car? What if he just kicked you in the shin? From what I understand from way back, more than about 60 years, give a bully an inch, he'll take a yard.
That's a fact.
So you shouldn't give him an inch in the first place.
And, that's interesting you bring that up because...
And the government is a perfect example of that.
And that's exactly what I'm getting at. There was a time not too long ago, maybe in the last decade or so, when there was this big push, media, government, big push, anti-bullying. Remember this? It was all over the media and all that kind of thing. And they had to be very careful that they didn't point this anti-bullying campaign against themselves because government meets the definition of bully.
Well, I don't say government in itself is necessarily like that. We need it
the evidence
to protect
says
us
otherwise.
from criminals, but it has to be
okay.
controlled by a constitution.
But the thing is, it's
in
not
what
controlled
way has
by
it
the
ever been controlled
Constitution?
by a constitution?
Well, okay, all three of you. Somebody go first.
Well, I mean, nobody and I are saying the same thing. When has it ever been controlled by the
In
Constitution?
stereo, where available.
Jill, when
We've
has
had amendments.
when has it been controlled by the Constitution?
It's not perfect, but we've had amendments and things.
It's not good. It's not neutral.
It's not even good enough that you would pay for their services if they didn't threaten violence if you didn't. I don't want the government defending me because mostly they defend me from my own choices. And
They do a lot of that, but we have to change the basic thing about government, that its only purpose is to protect human beings from force and violence and to punish same. And that
That's
it's
never
not
been
for
true.
Education or it's not. It's only proper purpose. And it shouldn't be allowed to mess with education and all that other garbage.
Yeah, but the market can
You're
provide
right
all of those things.
In theory, that is supposed to be the purpose of government as laid out in the Declaration of Independence. It is to secure these rights that governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The problem is, with respect to me, all of their powers are unjust because I do not consent.
Nor have I ever.
And the reason is I don't buy my security services from extortionists. And when you say, if you don't buy my security services, I'm going to come back and hurt you, that is a crime right there. It's called extortion.
What I say is when you bring the government down to its proper functions, you institute a system of voluntary financing, a law enforcement fee, which if you don't choose to pay it, well and good, but then it won't do you any good to call 911 because the police won't come to this address.
I would agree, but what you're describing there is bringing it down to zero. That is bringing it down to zero.
Because it's not a government anymore at that point, because the definition of government is they force you to pay for it whether you want it or not.
Well, you see, under my system, that wouldn't be done.
Yeah.
Well, then
under mine either.
Well, it sounds to me like you're an anarchist then, because I mean,
no, I'm not.
Well, no. I mean, so here's the thing: if you give them any monopoly, especially a monopoly on force, the initiation of force, if you give them any monopoly, they will expand to their current size and beyond.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Initiation of force. I'm talking about retaliatory force.
Well, they're the ones who are allowed to nab you and put you in a cell, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, it's as soon as they can tax you, or they can use their powers in some capacity other than defending others against you, and anybody can do that. If I'm beating somebody up, everybody and anybody has the right to make me stop. Okay, by force if necessary, but nobody has the right to say, hey, if I see somebody beating you up, I'm going to stop them, and therefore you have to pay me whether you like it or not, whether it happens or not, and whether or not I deliver the services that I'm promising.
Well, I just proposed a law enforcement fee, which would be voluntary.
Yeah.
The incentive being a sort of insurance against crime.
And I would
fits
agree
perfectly
with
an
you
anarchist
there.
worldview.
I just wouldn't call it a government at that point, because if it's not forced on everybody at gunpoint, it's not a government.
What I don't want, Jill, I don't want only one choice in security provider, because if the provider of this security, this crime deterrent organization, if there's only one of them, I have no choice. They're a monopoly. I want choice, because if they do a bad job, I want to be able to take my business elsewhere. Thank you for the call, Jill. We appreciate you.
Every monopoly becomes corrupt.
It certainly does. 603-283-6160. That's our number here at Free Talk Live. I wish more people would come to the conclusion that violence is not the answer, and that's all government is based on. More Free Talk Live coming up.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important, because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Was Santa generous? I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. You can sell gift cards you're not using at cardcash.com and giftcards.com, where you can also buy discounted gift cards for almost anything. If you're planning a major purchase, consider buying now because prices are rising. And if you see PMI on your mortgage statement, That's private mortgage insurance, which you can cancel if your principal balance is below 80% of your home's value, which it may now be thanks to inflation. Ever since the COVID shutdown, we've been suffering supply chain issues, and nothing is in shorter supply than what you see in the mirror. The help wanted sign is everywhere, so ask your boss for a raise. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Well, it's the final segment already. If you've missed any of tonight's program, feel free to go over to freetalklive.com. Check out the archives. We've got archives going back longer than I can shake a stick at. So there's a whole bunch of episodes there. You can catch up on classics.
How long can you shake a stick?
I'd say about a decade or so.
I mean, do I have to do it 24/7? Because that, if I could take a break,
your arm would get tired after a decade of shaking the stick.
Yeah,
so. I don't like to shake my stick in public.
This is Free Talk Live, so of course we're a live call-in radio program, and let's just go right away to your calls and your thoughts. We have David in New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Speaking of not liking to shake his stick, what was that German phrase? And this is leading into cocaine-snorting judges that beat their girlfriends.
Wait. Are you talking about cocaine snorting the judges, or the judges snorting the cocaine?
Oh, I thought he said propane.
They probably snorted that too, and I'm not sure which direction it goes. Knowing these judges, I've heard accounts, it's probably all of the above.
All right, go ahead.
So this guy comes up to me before the show, and he says, "Hey, want to snort?" I said, "Sure."
There you go, just like that. The pig. You can tie that in there. And so the German sentence you guys were making use of earlier. What was that?
Peakless at it.
Ich liebe dich.
So that's I love Dick. What was that?
Dich. It's you. It's informal you. As opposed to Ich lieben Sie, which would be I love you formally, which is just an absolutely awkward sentence.
So it's not it's not like it's not like the shortened form of Richard.
No.
So you don't love Richard. Okay. All right. Good. Just want to get that clear.
No, with a D, not an R. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, get to the cocaine snorting judges.
It's right here, man. It's right here. I brought to you, this is coming from Joe Monahan's NewMexico.blogspot.com. Joe is a retired mainstream journalist, well known in Albuquerque, and has his little blog here to blow the whistle on fun stuff to blow the whistle on. And I shared with you last weekend an article, first of two articles on this situation where these cocaine snorting judges were beating their girlfriends. And we won't get through this one because this is longer than the other one, but we'll use it as a guide here and entertain ourselves and inform the public, especially those in New Mexico.
Get to the point, David.
This is the point. This is the point. You're being very shallow. This is the point. I'm sorry if I have to go to the second grade version. Woman in Jewel case speaks. I love him, she declares, talking about Judge Tommy Jewell. She was having an affair with him on his wife Angela Jewell, who was the judge that trafficked my case the year before this woman gave this interview to this reporter. Condemns secretary as Jewell bows out. Plus, odd twist, this woman that he was having an affair with was a student of the governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson. He taught a class at the, what's that word, Captain? Nepoincestuous. Nepoincestuous. There you go, because that very well describes New Mexico, as you see here, that the judge in my case, her husband, who's also a judge, having an affair, and the woman he's having an affair with is a student of the governor of New Mexico.
Okay, so David, it's like Days of Our Lives here. We don't need the background and everything. Get to the cocaine snorting judges, man.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to know about just the cocaine part, we can save all the other exciting details for later. The cocaine part is, if we just go all the way down to the bottom of this article, this woman was beat up by this judge, Tommy Jewell. Remember, at least that was the allegation, and because she filed a police report, and there was a criminal complaint swore out, and it was a court case.
Okay.
And
thanks for the call, David. I didn't hear anything about cocaine snorting judges in there. Let's move right along.
But the police flag is black and blue, just like 40% of their wives.
We've got Jacob in Alabama. Jacob, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
We're good. What's on your mind?
So I was just curious. Living in Alabama in the central of Montgomery, most people here are pretty left-sided, and I was curious to ask you guys. With the upcoming election in 2024, I heard some backlash of people saying that Trump was going to try to run for president again. And the issue that most people have run into here is, we all voted against Trump because, we didn't like what he was saying. He's a bad person in general. But the issue we've come into is that the economy and the gas prices and mostly everything is just shot up the moment we have him not in office. So I guess I was just curious to ask, what are you guys' opinion on that?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I would point out is that if you're a decent human being, you're not going to be president, because in order to be the president, you have to do things like murder children. And that's not something that decent people do. But yet, when they drop bombs on random villages, those villages have children in them. And so they are murdering children. So anyone who occupies such an office is going to be a horrible, horrible human being, because they're willing to make their living murdering children.
Yeah, I think
they're also willing to engage in extortion, force people to pay for products they don't want at gunpoint. So not being a decent human being is not really a good way to judge a candidate, because they're all horrible.
Yeah, so I think what really upset people the most about Trump was that he didn't maintain decorum. So he didn't, give the illusion of being a wonderful paragon of humanity while doing all of these unspeakably evil things, while helping the Yemeni genocide go on, for example, while, bombing and murdering all of these innocent children, while extorting countries, as a matter of fact, not only individuals. Like, that seemed to be the really big problem. But he talked about his penis size on television. Yeah, but was he any more evil than every other bastard who tries to become president?
Well, the funny thing is, he's actually the only president, and for the record, I'd never voted for Trump. I voted for Joe Jorgensen and Gary Johnson, but he's the only president, perhaps during my lifetime, or at least since Carter, who didn't start any new wars.
I'm glad you brought up the voting part, because there is some blame to lay here at the feet of everybody who did vote. Now, They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, we have the largest empire to ever exist in Earth's history. What was supposed to be an experiment in the smallest government ever. That's what the founders, sort of I'm paraphrasing all of their words, but that was the idea, was that they wanted to have the smallest government possible, right? And it was an experiment because nobody had ever done this before. It turned into the largest empire ever in Earth's history, and that's what we have now. Now, how did it get that way? There's some blame to lay at the feet of people who vote. Until Americans can pull their heads out of their collective asses and get out of the left, right, blue, red paradigm and start looking at people that might do things a little bit differently or have a different philosophy on it. Until that happens, we're going to keep getting this bowl of crap, and the bowl is just going to continue to increase in size regardless of the Democrat or Republican that's in the chair. And I maintain that it's the chair itself that's the problem.
And I would say that there's blame to be laid at the feet of everyone today who is exclusively transacting in U.S. dollars. You have other options, people. You can transact in silver. You can transact in gold. You can barter. You can use cryptocurrencies. You have options. But instead, you are trading your time, your most valuable asset, the one thing you can never replace, and you are trading it for their ability to create destruction. That's what dollars are. They are nothing more or less than the ability of the United States empire to murder people around the world and make your time pay for it.
Anything else, Jacob?
Absolutely true. When you trade in their money, you put energy into their system, because that's what money is. It's energy.
We are out of time. Thank you to our callers, our listeners. Thanks to you guys for doing this program with me here tonight. If you missed any of this, find our archives over at freetalklive.com. Thanks and peace.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with President Biden's controversial arrival in Saudi Arabia for meetings with the King and top members of the royal family, including Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He, of course, is the Saudi royal accused by US intelligence of orchestrating the murder in Istanbul 4 years ago of Saudi-American journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But after earlier vowing to treat Saudi Arabia like a pariah, President Biden now finds himself re-engaging with the kingdom. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
Human rights are a strategic interest of the United States. So is energy security. So is stopping terrorism. So is seeking peace in a place like Yemen. We are trying to do multiple things all at once.
The president headed to Saudi Arabia from the West Bank, where he met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and toured a healthcare facility. Before that, in Israel, he had a complicated conversation about Iran with caretaker Prime Minister Yair Lapid. The president wants talks on reviving the Iran nuclear deal to be given more time.
I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome.
The Israeli Prime Minister